Hey, everybody, welcome to the Green Room from DisrupTV. And more importantly, this is where we share with you the background of what's happening next. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Vala Asher, co-founder, of course, and of course, Elle, our producer, and three great guests. We've got Sue Gordon, Barry Sullivan, and Dr. David Bray. Let's do introductions from Sue to Barry to David. Where are you coming in from, and what are we going to talk about today? Sue, go ahead.
I'm in Austin, Texas. It's only modestly hot here, and we're talking about two of my favorite topics. One, leadership in disrupted times where you can't be what you were, and leadership then makes the difference. And then technology, because while you may not need to be an expert, particularly as a leader, you better be pretty conversant because you're making a lot of decisions about how you manage risk. So love this topic and love my co-panelists.
Oh, very cool. Barry, where are you coming in from? What are we talking about?
Well, I'm coming in from Ireland, so right down south, Cork in Ireland, University College Cork, and it's great to be here with you all. And I'm working a lot on AI, responsible AI, basically AI in all sorts of interesting applications, military space, diplomacy spaces, things like that. So real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Excited to have you here. Thank you for being here. David.
I'm coming within the blast radius of Washington, D.C. And I am just, like Sue said, I love being here because I've known both Sue and Barry for almost 15 years. And of course, Ray and Vala. So this is almost to me just like a fun fireside conversation. And as Sue mentioned, for me, I'm particularly interested as to how is leadership changing given AI, but also how it's staying the same. What are the principles we want to hold on to, as well as the new lessons we want to learn?
Very cool. Well, with that, we're going to kick it off. Elle, please do the count.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on DisrupTV. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send Ray, myself, our distinguished guests, your questions, and we'll do our best to answer them live. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-host, Ray Wang. He's the CEO, founder of Constellation Research. He's the best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. I see Ray on TV just about every day, CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business, CNN. In my humble opinion, he's one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWANG0. Welcome, Mr. Wang, to DisrupTV.
Hey, thanks a lot. Here with Vala Asher, the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce. He's also the author of multiple books, including Boundless and Autonomous, actually one of the top sellers in, hey, you can't do that. One of the top sellers on Amazon. Of course, you can get his book on Amazon. But executives around his world follow every one of his innovative and inspirational tweets. And more importantly, if he's not keynoting, leading events, talking to executives all around the world, you can catch him on Bloomberg and, of course, posting insightful analyses here on ZDNet. So, but it's not about us. Time to time, we get together some amazing panels, and of course, we go deep on the subject. And who do we have to kick it off today? These three panelists.
I had a tough time, Ray, because these three distinguished panelists, our show is only an hour, so I had to cut their bios to about a tenth of what they've accomplished. So please allow me to introduce our guest. Sue Gordon is regarded as one of the most accomplished leaders in the history of national security, having served as the country's #2 ranking intelligence official and a trusted advisor to our nation's key decision makers. As Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Sue co-led the Office of the Director of National Intelligence and oversaw the entire intelligence community comprised of over a dozen agencies that collect information on threats against the United States. Sue served for for 27 years at the Central Intelligence Agency. She started when she was 11 and was involved in some of the most monumental operations in U.S. history, including the raid on Osama bin Laden. Sue has been recognized for her creative executive leadership thoughts through numerous awards, including distinguished. By the way, I had to cut the awards down.
Please stop it. I'm old, grateful, and lucky. We're good. We can let's leave time for the conversation.
Well, okay. So here's the most impressive part of illustrious. Sue attended Duke University, where she was a three-time captain of the Duke's women's basketball team. So if we were playing basketball, I know who I'm picking on my team first. welcome, Sue to Disrupt TV. Yeah, that was
welcome. My son's at Duke as well, so that's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Recent Duke graduate. Barry Sullivan, Professor Barry Sullivan, is an award-winning academic and founding director of several internationally focused and world-leading research organizations. He's internationally regarded expert in artificial intelligence, constraint programming, AI ethics, and policy. Barry contributes to several global track 2 diplomacy efforts related to the geopolitics of AI, especially in the responsible use of intelligence and international security domains. Barry is a full professor at School of Computer Science and IT at University College Cork. He's dialing in from Cork, and has served as a member of its governing body. He's founding director of the Insights SFI Research Center for Data Analytics at UCC and director of the SFI Center for Research Training in AI. He's the founding editor-in-chief of ACM AI Letters. Professor Sullivan is a fellow and past president of the European AI Association. He's also a fellow of Association for Advancements of Artificial Intelligence and fellow of Asia Pacific AI Association. Again, I apologize, Professor Sullivan. I cut your bio short. Most recently, he was appointed the European Enterprise Digital Advisory Forum and to the government's AI Advisory Council in 2024. Welcome, Barry, to Disrupt TV. Last but not least, and of course, anyone who's been watching Disrupt for 10 years knows our guest, because if this was Saturday Night Live, he wouldn't have the 5-time jacket. He might have the 25-time jacket. And by the way, our producer, we're working on a jacket for you.
I will wear it with pride if it happens. I would love to.
Yes. Let's just, again, our audiences are very familiar, but Dr. Bray is chair of the Accelerator at the Loomis Council and a distinguished fellow at the Stimson Center. Dr. David is principal at Lead, Do, Adapt Ventures. And Business Insider named him one of the top 24 Americans who are changing the world under 40. He was also named Young Global Leader by World Economic Forum. Welcome back. First ballot Hall of Fame inductee to Disrupt TV, Dr. Bray.
Oh, thank you, Vala. Oh, and again, it really is about Sue and Barry, because I think the two of them together, I can't think of two people more perfectly positioned for how does leadership change and how does it remain the same, for sure, given everything that's happening.
I mean, this is one of the
top. To have you both.
This is one of the top questions we'll be asking for a while, and I think this is great because we're just at the beginning of that. Sue, you served as Principal Director of DNI, Director of National Intelligence, and Deputy Director of NGA, and you also joined the CIA, not the Culinary Institute, but the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, and served for 29 years, going to executive positions everywhere along the way, from analysis, S&T, support, but you've done change. Right? And change inside intelligence agency is not easy. Let's start with the trust factor, right? So you've done large-scale organizational change. You've delivered interesting and revolutionary outcomes, such as getting In-Q-Tel off the ground, which is amazing. And of course, that's like the CIA's unprecedented, independent, not-for-profit private VC firm. Let's talk leadership, because you've been in some of the toughest environments, the ones with the least trusting individuals, and more importantly, the ones that don't like change, because change is, antithetical to their existence of survival. So what does it mean to lead in that kind of environment? Sorry to set you up that way.
Well, I see that both of you all got my check, so thank you for those laudatory comments. Good to know that you
haven't cashed it, so I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. So for me, I joined the CIA in 1980. For me, it was a perfect organization because, so you mentioned basketball. The CIA, when I was there, was like playing pickup basketball with guys. And Right. So when you play pickup basketball with girls, this isn't a quality of the game. It's just that women share the ball more and you're kind of like group outcome. When you play pickup basketball with guys, if you don't do something with the ball, you're not going to get the ball again. And the obverse of that is even more interesting organizationally, because it's an organization that allowed you to do things with the ball. So the culture of the place is you have position. If you own space, the expectation and the allowance was for you to do something with it. Then that just turned out to be a great place for me. So when the CIA, and I even think the intelligence community, although bureaucracy is creeping in everywhere, the mission, focus, and purpose is so profound that if you are someone who can get things done, it doesn't much matter your pedigree. You are going to be sought after, and you are going to move through other places that need things done. So the environment was really good for me. The mission drive, I think, was the transportation. But I've taken that, and I think that's how you ought to think about leadership now for anybody. Number one, as a leader, you're responsible for seeing the moment and recognizing whether you have it or whether you don't. And if you have it, you must move. And so even though you have domain and a job, as a leader, you better be looking up to say, does it hold? Does it go away? Or does it need to change? And if you as a leader can see that, rather than waiting for that to be a bureaucratic action, you're going to have room. So that's number one. You better have your head up even when your head's down. The second is a leader is disproportionately responsible for vision.
No.
Right?
No.
And when I say vision, that's by the end of the decade, we're going to put men on the moon and return them safely to the earth. The vision is not let's build Tang on Velcro and see if we get to the moon. Right? So this vision thing for a leader is, I'm going to see all the way to where we need to be. I'm going to not worry about change, because even though I hate it, I worry about irrelevance more, and you're going to set that vision. So that's number two. Number three is you must give it to your women and men. Right? And you must do that for two reasons. One, it's because they're the ones that actually know how to do things, and if you'll trust them, they will never disappoint you as long as you do your job. And then the second thing is, and I think we're feeling this right now, is that leaders have not given enough responsibility down. And so now, as people are leaving, whether demographically or for other reasons, we don't have leaders that have ever done anything, because they were always just a servo for a boss above. So this idea that once you set the vision, you must give it away, because you get the revolution with the new. And then the fourth thing is the leadership, and I'll quit talking so much, is you have to be so good at your job of leadership, which is very different than doing it, that you can always say, when your women and men run into difficulty, you can say, oh, I've seen worse, let's fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right? You have to be that good. And when you are that good, they will take big chances. And it's absolutely profound.
I can tell why you were a 3-time captain at one of the top basketball colleges in the country. I apologize. I don't know what position you played, but the way you described, vision and passing, and were you a point guard? I doubt you were a point guard, but
no,
but maybe.
I was. Okay, so time won't even let me make myself better than I was. I was good enough to be on the team. I'm a 3-time captain, 2-time letter winner. My position was holding down the left bench for most of my career.
Oh, you're so modest. Well, that's part of being a great leader. You're always giving credit to and you lead with humility and modesty. Barry, your thoughts about Sue's commentary in terms of leadership, and in basketball, it's shoot, pass, dribble, and you have to be decisive when you get the ball. And if you hold it too long, and you may not be included in the next play. As you said, your thoughts, and we don't have to keep to a sports analogy, but your thoughts on leadership in the age of AI.
I think Sue's spot on. I think this idea of promoting people and letting people go with the idea and go with the vision and stepping away and letting them blossom. That's really important, because there are so many organizations where people have stayed around for too long in senior positions, just, the people who are coming up behind you, they just don't have those opportunities. I think you have to create the opportunities. And, as a leader, I think it's great to let people go out there, try something, take responsibility for them, tell them that, look, you trust them, you buy into them, you back them, let them go, try something out. If there's something that goes wrong, take responsibility for it and give them a helping hand. But I think the idea of making sure that you don't block the next generation is really, really important. And so, that idea of creating the vision and getting out of the way, I think that's really spot on. I think not enough of that is done. Like how many organizations and, even political parties have we seen where, there are people who sort of overstay just a little bit, and that can have a dramatic impact, right? So people just need to know when the time is to step away. And that's very, very challenging. That's very, very difficult because, of course, the vision is yours. It's very personal. But I think, it's spot on. I think absolutely right, Sue.
Yeah, just jumping in on that last point, Barry, that you said about the stepping away. So I did have the chance to, boss needed something clever done, and he gave me the chance to do it, and it became InQtel. And so a lot of its construct came out of my head. The reason it's successful 26 years later is because I never had any operational role in it. Right? That we gave it to them. And then, because founders can be really problematic because you think and you tend to be more resistant to the changes that are happening over time. So Barry, I love what you said about it isn't just giving someone as a task, it's that you actually have to move.
Yeah, and if I may, I think there's something that was said to me a number of years ago which really stuck with me, and it says that people who are leaders or aspiring to be leaders, they're often a leader of part of something. And I think what's important is that they also recognize themselves as a part leader of all. And what I mean is, not only do you do lead the piece that you're responsible for, but you're also a part leader of the overall effort. And I think that kind of that's something that I constantly remember when I'm working in a very senior environment where I might not necessarily be seeing eye to eye to the people with the people that are there, but it's important that everybody around the table knows that, look, we're a leader apart, but we're a part leader of all.
Great. I'm going to borrow that, Barry. That was great. Yeah.
you can take that. You can take that back.
I will. For a week, I'll give you credit, Barry. But
that's right. No,
a week is fine.
After that, it'll be lost in hallucinations of generative AI.
Sadly, we archive all the shows and we get more views after the live show. So I may have to be generous for a month, but after that, it's mine.
He's taking it back.
I'll take what I can get.
David, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so I loved it. I mean, what Sue said resonated so much, and it reflects some of the similar experiences I saw and had to both navigate and find a way. I like to tell people that there's some that say that leadership comes from the word leet, not meaning anything other than the flag bearers, and it was actually in ancient Greece, leet meant to be sent unto death. And so if you're leading, you're hopefully not dying a physical death, but you are the flag bearer, and that's when you're going to hit opposition. You're going to hit resistance because people are expecting certain things. And I think, that's where we oftentimes, if you're winning awards, usually that's because you're a great manager, or maybe ultimately whatever you did turned out to be right. But if you're a leader, sometimes you're going to, people are going to say you're a heretic. Why are you going against the grain? Get back in your box. And so I think building on everything that both Sue and Barry said, I think we're now in an era in which not only do we need to have people that have the vision to help get stuff done when they have that moment of opportunity, but then it's how do you serve as that flak jacket, that top cover for your team members? Because I agree with you 100%. The moment something goes wrong, all eyes are going to be on you in terms of, are you going to turn around and start blaming people, which would be death at that point? Or you just say, look, I've seen worse, and by the way, I'm going to take the heat. What I'm more interested in is, what are we going to do to fix this? Or what are we going to do to navigate this? And that takes a certain calm under pressure. And I think what's happening right now, and has been happening over the last 10 years, 15 years, the world feels like it's getting more and more fast-paced. It feels like it's more and more turbulent. And I'm seeing people that are in positions of leadership or the opportunity to be in leadership become more controlling. And I think that is a recipe for failure. because the world is changing so fast and it doesn't get that esprit de corps, that trust in which you empower people. And so one of the things I'm trying to tell people whenever I get the chance is, if you're a leader, learn how to let go, even if it feels like you have no safety net. And you've got to be brave enough to navigate that.
David, I love that you added that, and it is an and. It's not just a reinforcement. It's a new idea from what we were saying, and I think that's really important, especially in leaders. You still have that responsibility, but you're going to start on a course. Your women and men are going to start on a course, and then things are going to be different.
Yep.
Right?
You're going to encounter either nature or something else.
So one of the things I say is, do you want to be right or do you want to be righteous?
Yes.
Right. So a lot of people have the idea and they are so proud of it and they polish and it looks like zealotry, or maybe it's just overwhelming belief. And one of the things that is so good when you involve your people is they will come up with something that is different from what you assumed you were going to come. And if you as a leader can say, what is most important is that we achieve the objective, not that we achieve it in a particular manner.
Right.
That has such a ripple effect in terms of what you now start generating in terms of kind of creative energy that you aren't directing. So I love that point you made. Great job.
Yeah, and I also really like David's analogy of leader as a flak jacket. I think that's really important, because quite often, with the seniority and with the it may not necessarily be the power, but it's certainly the responsibility that comes with seniority. I think you have to often make sure that those opportunity, that the kind of nonsense that can hit people in their everyday lives, that you can absorb that and you can protect them from that, and just let them find their feet, find their ground, and move forward. So often, I think just being that kind of wrapper for people is also very important. It's not very exciting, obviously.
Until you're being shot at.
Until you're being shot at. Then they really appreciate it. But people do notice this later. I think over my career, the number of times that people have come up to me and said afterwards, as they've embarked on their separate careers, that I can't remember any time when this crap was happening when I was working with you. When I said, well, it did happen, except I was your flak jacket then, so you didn't have to deal with it.
Your job is to be the buffer, the firewall.
Exactly.
That's great. All of these conversations remind me, I think it was Moneyball, the baseball movie, using numbers and I think it was the Red Sox owner interviewing at the end. He says the first through the wall is always the bloodiest.
Yes.
A leader, has you have to have grit and perseverance, and maybe the first to follow helps you become comfortable with potentially leading at some point. And the comment around being inclusive, as I get older, it's clear that everyone I meet knows more about something than I do. Everyone, at any level. So seeking those random collisions and being open to listening and truly listening, and sometimes even listening to the unsaid, helps you identify blind spots and maybe even give you courage to lead with vigor. Ray, please, I know you have lots of thoughts about leadership as a CEO of an incredible, growing, thriving Silicon Valley company for, nearly 20 years. You've had, I'm sure, some headwinds and tailwinds as a leader yourself.
I mean, a lot of it is you have to have what we call dynamic leadership. And that's the ability to manage the things that you really should be doing and the things that you need to be doing. And we've got a bunch of attributes that we talk about in dynamic leadership. And sometimes, what happens is there isn't a pattern, right? You have to pull from all these different leadership styles. We learn some leaders are really good. They're very loud. They're very didactic. They're very powerful. Others are really quiet, very pensive. They're good at listening. They make those decisions. They're not as reactive. They're much more well thought. And there is a time for each one of these. It's just that we have these personas in front of us of only a small part of these 14 attributes of leadership that we think are important for people to be, responsible and, responsive. And they're not easy to do. I'll give you an example. Like you might want a leader that is, makes fast decisions, quick decisions, very decisive. And you're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a strong leader. And then you get someone else that might be more thoughtful, right? They take some time. They think it through. They're not as hot-headed. They are very planned and very deliberate. Is there a better leadership style? Don't know. What time is it? What's the situation?
Depends on the environment. Depends on the circumstances. To your point, right? You know, the environment shapes what styles and tools you need to bring, as opposed to the person.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing I've learned is, because I've led lots of different teams that have different attributes, and mine is if they're not following, you're not leading. I don't care what your style is.
Yeah,
But ultimately is, are you being effective? So I am nowhere on the literal scale, right? So I tend to be, a little aspirational, a little abstract. I once led a group of people that were very concrete, and they wanted to come with me, but after 6 months, they were defeated because they couldn't figure out what I wanted because we just weren't doing. So remembering that your style is not nearly as important as a style that is effective to create the team, to create the outcome.
If I can double click on what Sue just said, because I realized I became my dad as I got older. My father was a Methodist minister, but there was a point in time where he was assigned to a church that was jointly Methodist, Episcopalian, and Presbyterian at the same time. And so what he used to do would not work for that congregation. And the reality is the minister is not in charge. The congregation is. And so I think that is a perspective on leadership, which is leaders are only as effective as they have been able to fit whatever they're bringing to the congregation or to the team. Otherwise, the team will kick you out.
Oh, go ahead, Barry. Please add.
I was just going to say, the context is really important. I work in an academic environment. What leadership means in my world is quite different from what it would have been in, for example, Sue's world in the intelligence services, and David's work in the field. There are moments where leadership means very, very different things. But in all cases, it's taking responsibility, and as Sue says, bringing people with you, and I suppose getting that trust from them that they can come along, and also that they can contribute. I can remember a few years ago working on a project with a very, very senior multinational executive at CEO level. And one of the things he said to me, which I thought was really interesting, is that when we listen to people, and we have something to say, what we're never going to say, we're not going to use the word but, we're going to use the word and. So we're going to build on everything they say. We're not going to contradict them. We're going to contribute and build on top of the things that they say, even if we fundamentally disagree with it. And just watching how he would do that was really impressive. You don't learn that kind of thing. And also just simple things in the context we were in. That your voice, how you approach people, how the volume, whether you were quiet and listening most of the time or whether you were acting, but I think that's really important. The context is so there isn't one kind of leader, there isn't one kind of leadership, and even in the context of a single person, So I know David well. He's a leader at. He's many leaders. He's many different styles that he brings to bear, given the context. And we all do, right? So that's really important. We can't be sort of one-trick ponies. That doesn't work.
Definitely not. And David, look, we've served in challenging environments, responding to 9/11, anthrax, bioterrorism. Oh my God, that was 2001. That was wild.
I know.
And of course,
now I'm feeling old.
And you're a senior national intelligence service exec, and you actually served at the FCC as the CIO, winning a lot of awards and changing a place. I remember you telling me the story of how, like, when you joined, there was a new CIO every year before you.
There had been 9 CIOs in 8 years, and they also, at the time I can now share, they had also had 2 advanced persistent threats prior to my arrival that had not been gotten rid of. So I was inheriting IT systems that were compromised already. Yay! Whoa. Which is why we went to cloud. At the time, it was definitely for efficiencies and effectiveness, but it was also, I spent the first months trying to see if the Department of Defense would help with providing a firewall. Challenges, they said, you're a Title V independent regulatory agency. We're Title 10, have no idea how this is going to happen. So I was like, fine. This was 2013. I said, we're going to go to cloud. But that's where, again, you got to be adaptive. I had a plan. The plan wasn't working, so I needed to shift. But the other thing was being very intentional about taking the vision, but making sure it wasn't just my own. Because I think if I made it just my own, then they would wait me out and it would die. What it really was going towards and saying, for the next hour, I can only ask questions. I can remember first 2 weeks in, I said, how are people feeling? And, people were kind of shy and everything like that. So I knew there were some extroverts, and I called on them. And again, I asked, how are you feeling? And towards the end, this was an hour-long conversation. About 5 minutes towards the end, someone said, I had a beef. And I said, could you tell me more? And they said, it happened 17 years ago. I just arrived 2 weeks there. I said, could you tell me more? And it was some difference of opinion between government and contractors. And I said, I really appreciate you sharing that. How can we apply it to our lessons going forward? And I think that is another attribute of leaders, is how do you help people on their own journey wherever they're at shift from being problem admirers and problem holders to being problem solvers? Because again, given how fast the world is changing, it's just a few people that are solving things. You will always fall behind. And that is a tool that I find is even more needed nowadays. I think we've got an epidemic of learned helplessness in societies and everything like that. It's somebody else's problem to fix. It's fascinating. I was just on the Hill yesterday meeting with some folks, and I shared some information. They said, well, clearly business will solve that. And I said, well, just a week earlier, I was meeting with businesses, and they said, clearly government will solve that. And I'm like,
Exactly.
It's a collective action problem. So, but I also really want to tie this to AI, because I think we've done some good conversation about leadership. Two things I've seen. It was about a year ago, I was a judge for a NATO competition, and one of the award-winning projects was using AI to share both the commander's intent before a meeting, but also what people's own expectations were for a meeting. And then after the meeting, the folks could give feedback to the commander and say, did we think the meeting was useful or not? And so I wonder, is this a way that we can have better atmospherics as to, is not just a meeting, but is the task going well? Is the project going well? Because as long as the AI is not necessarily spying for the boss, but in fact, actually giving objective feedback that has been collected from people, oftentimes leaders are held back by economies of scale. I mean, and I'm sure I could give you examples. There's only so many people you can meet in a day. The other thing that I also think would be is holding that mirror up, whether you're a boss, whether you're an employee, and just saying, here's how your words sound, here's how you're communicating, and allowing us to then make decisions as to, is this really fit for purpose given the task that we're doing, or are we leaning towards one way or another that's not optimal? Because oftentimes, and I know, Vala, you and I have talked about this, if you assign a task to an employee and they don't complete it, it could be that the employee was either not motivated or didn't have the skills, or it could be actually the manager gave the wrong task to the wrong person. And so having that sort of reflection, I think I'm actually really hopeful that maybe digital tools can help.
This is a time where I'm going to, take a selfish turn in our discussion, because I want to be a good dad, and I want to give great advice to my three children. So my oldest is 22. Wait, because how often do you get 24 Americans changing the world, and 3-time captain of Duke, and one of the most foremost authorities in government, and the leading expert guiding Ireland through the AI revolution? This is amazing. So my 22-year-old, when I think about her age, in the last, so go back to when she was born, 2003. We witnessed the cloud revolution, really started early 2000s, the social revolution in 2004 with Meta, and then Twitter a few years after that, and the mobile revolution 2007 with the iPhone really changing, bringing your own device to work. If you're a CIO like Dr. Bray, folks were bringing their own tools to work because they were more powerful than what the tools that were being issued to them. So we saw the cloud revolution, the mobile revolution, the social revolution, the data analytics revolution, and certainly the last 5-6 years, not present company, but the world kind of woke up to the artificial intelligence revolution, the ChatGPT moment of October 2022. And so in the last 11 years that I've been involved in AI, there's been the predictive wave, the generative wave, the last 3 years, the agentic wave. Software now can reason, it has autonomy, agency. It's no longer a tool. It can execute next to you side by side. Some call it digital labor. and of course, robotics, drones, and autonomous vehicles, physical AI. And in the 30 years I've been in tech, I think AI is now electricity for the 21st century. It's the most important technology of my lifetime. I used to think it was the web in '93, which gave birth to companies like Google and Amazon and my company, Salesforce, democratizing access to the web. But now I believe it's AI. How do you lead in a world where I think my 15-year-old, I absolutely believe this to be true. My 15-year-old, in 7 years, when he leaves college with a master's degree, I'm an immigrant, so I assume he's going to go undergrad and grad. I come from a whole family
Expectations, yes.
education.
You may lead those, so just be ready.
Still gives me a hard time because I didn't finish my PhD. Dr. Bray, my mom, and I know Ray's mom does the same. I'm pretty certain both of us haven't achieved enough when it comes to our parents. I think my son, when he joins a company, his manager will be intelligent software. Software will guide his career, what conferences he should go, what papers he should read, how to earn a mentor, how to earn a sponsor. There may be a human involved, but I'm certain, because I actually sit in my company right now. My question to you, I'll start with Sue. How do you, what are the ingredients for strong leadership in a world where you have intelligent software? And I just came back from Cisco, Phoenix, and Atlanta. Anytime I was on the street, I could count to 30. 1, 2, 3, and I see a car driving by, and there's no driver. And they're now surpassing Waymos in San Francisco surpass Lyft and Uber in terms of rides. So it's the future may not be it's here, but it's not evenly distributed. We don't have it in Boston yet, but I'm sure it's going to be there in the next several weeks, months. How does this change the landscape for leaders?
Well, I think it changes everything except one thing. Right. And the one thing I don't think it changes is you still have responsibility for kind of seeing out the world, and whatever your space is that you're leading, you do have to look at the world, and then you have to say, so how are we going to get there?
Yes.
Like, and what if we could? And so I'll choose my intelligence community, and I love intelligence. I'm passionate about the craft. I worry about them right now because I think they're trying to figure out how to use technology to do the job they've been doing.
Ooh,
and so I think what changes the most about leadership now is you still have that responsibility, and you still need humans to be able to take all that in because we're great integrators. But how am I going to do that in a world where speed is the new advantage? You have got to use technology. You have got to recognize that you will be able to do even the same intention differently because of it. And then most importantly, as a leader, you can't not be conversant in the various risks associated with the technologies, because if as a leader you are not conversant enough, your teammates, after you set this vision, you've recognized that we're going to be different, that the way we do it and the outcomes we have are now explosively different, not instantaneously, but they will be. But if you as a leader are not conversant enough, you will view these new technologies as only risk and only additive risk. And you will retard the ability to move forward because some of these technologies will reduce risk. And again, I'm a big believer in the value of humans with machine partners. I learned this when I got tired of telling my 3-year-old grandson bedtime stories. And so I asked ChatGPT to come up with one. And he could listen to me for an hour, and he was bored with the ChatGPT in a minute.
Wow.
Because it is this magical combination of creativity and facility that I think is the future. But don't ignore how important it is for a leader to be conversant in the risk element, because that is both the key to success and the key to change.
So it's like a yin yang element for you.
A little bit, right? It is.
Because you gotta have that, because you got the risk, you got the reward, you got to create the balance. Otherwise, you go too far one way. You're not sure exactly where the results are going to be.
So Barry, think about just on that one. Think about an activist intelligence community. So I just said what I wanted them to be.
Yep.
But you want them to be trusted, right? You want the craft so that when it produces something, it be trusted.
False negatives, yeah.
Right. So you can't go so far that you ruin your brand.
Yep.
By being a leader when it's not ready to lead. So this issue of risk is also about what you put into play when, and what you have to protect, and what must you let go, and all that goes through technology.
Barry, do you need to be at this point, again, convergence of uncertainties, politics, war, climate, tariffs, deglobalization, emerging new technologies, future of work? do you need to be a wartime CEO at this point more than ever before, given just unknowns when it comes to powerful technologies such as AI?
Oh, you're muted, Barry. We can't hear you.
Oh, we lost him, so it's okay.
No, we got it.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe. The AI has decided.
AI took him out. We'll get back to it.
And what Barry was just about to say was the key to world peace.
Exactly.
Cannot believe we lost
Can you hear us now, Barry? Can you hear us?
Yeah, hear me now? Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're back. Yep.
Yeah, great. I'm not sure what happened there. So no, I don't think you have to be a wartime CEO. I think what's really important as a leader right now in an AI context is that you set realistic expectations and you don't buy in, or you don't overly buy into the hype. You can separate the big picture vision where the long-term technology is going, but from what's science fiction and hype. I think that's really important. I think you also need to, as Sue says, I think it's really important that you understand and communicate the risks, but it's also important that you explain to people who are on your team, what the expectation is around acceptable use of the technology and where responsibility lies. Does it lie at your level? Does it lie at their level? Because I think the technology, first of all, is extraordinarily impactful. Secondly, it's difficult to know sometimes if people are properly using and responsibly using the technology, even in a situation where you've tasked somebody to do something. So I think it's really important that you can communicate the culture around AI and the value system around AI, and that, as I say, there's so much hype going around right now that you need to keep people's feet on the ground. You need to keep their feet on the ground, but at the same time, you need to give them the information that they need to fly in some sense.
Yep.
What have you noticed? Like next year will be the first generation of university college graduates that have had 4 years of generative AI, agentic AI exposure and experience. For the first time, again, you've got 4 year. Have you noticed a difference in terms of how people consume knowledge, how they share? From someone who's at ground level at a campus, how is it different?
Are the papers more creative? Are they more
or derivative? It could go either way.
What I'm finding is a few different things. I think students are very eager to figure out how to use the technology properly.
Sure.
Because nobody wants to leave college having invested in an education in terms of time, money, and everything else, and not have the benefit of it. People don't want to ChatGPT know something; they want to really know something. My experience is that yes, these technologies have been widely used, but I think when I stop a student and we talk about it, they overwhelmingly want to know, well, how do I use this properly and responsibly? And that's the key thing. As you say, it's really interesting that we're now producing the first graduates from universities that are the sort of generative AI generation. And I think it's going to be really interesting to understand in recruitment processes how those students stack up to previous years. But my experience is that very good people who are really serious about their futures and serious about making a contribution, they also tend to use these kinds of technologies very, very responsibly. So they'll learn a new set of skills, but I don't think it's going to change the world entirely as we might believe it's going to.
My exposures to digital natives, people that were born mobile, social, cloud, and again, I have 3 in my house. I think the future is going to be bright. It's going to be great. They're much smarter than I was when I was their age, and maybe that goes without saying. But I think the future is bright. Anytime I visit, and I'm in Boston, so I get to go to university and colleges often. I always leave inspired. Like what they're building, and it's not even just vibe code. I mean, what they're building, what they can launch an app, a website. They really have the core competencies that I think that speaks to speed and scale and intelligence at a level that, as someone who fights with imposter syndrome, I don't think I can go back to school and get good grades.
I do think the one thing that I see in this one, I totally agree with the point. I think we're going to be okay. Like the talent, the talent that's coming is It's remarkable.
It is.
The one thing I think we could help them see is there's no amount of data that you can stack on top of each other to create a decision, because decisions always require a leap. You can reduce the space,
Sure.
But this active decision making, I think that's one where these so bright people think that if they just get enough data or build enough things, that will be tantamount to a solution. And so I think there's still some distance we have to travel in terms of adding these technologies to better, faster, more second and third order effect consideration of decisions.
And I want to amplify
neurons,
what Sue just said, because this was literally a conversation I was having this morning at a AAA event. There's these tools create the illusion of certainty. And the reality is, like you said, you can bring down risk, you can pare down risk, but at the end of the day, the nature of business, the nature of intelligence, you got to take a leap of faith, and sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. I mean, I tell people, if you have a smartphone, you have something that I guarantee you, Presidents, Reagan, President Bush 41, President Clinton, even President Bush 43 would have loved to have had in the Situation Room in terms of the ability to have, you can now have commercial space imagery as recent as 15 minutes ago at 0.25 meter resolution. That said, the community is still hiring tens of thousands of analysts that spend 3 to 4 weeks to write up something for the President's Daily Brief. And even then there's confidence intervals and it's still triangulating. Whereas we go online, how many of us have 3 to 4 weeks and 15,000 analysts to go and analyze this? And so we've got to teach people how to triangulate the sourcing. And then at the end of the day, say, I'm never going to know perfect information. When am I going to go with my gut? And then be willing to adjust, or at least have maximum elasticity to say, how wrong do I need to be before I change my decision? I think that's a leadership skill that we're not teaching, is decision making underneath uncertainty. And I worry if AI is taught wrong, it's going to make people look for more certainty when the fact is the world's always going to be uncertain. The other thing I would also say real quick is exactly what Sue said. I think we need more leaders to be good BS detectors. Because I think if anything, generative AI in the short term, and this is not lamenting Gen AI, it's going to make it a lot harder to discern what is real. All the problems that Sue and I and others face in the community have now been democratized. It's really easy to create fakes, and being able to do that and not be aghast at it and just say that's how things are. I mean, when the printing press came out, there were typos in books, and those typos were re-replicated, and yet we got through that. So I think BS detectors, but then as what Barry said too, how do you lead with vision, even if you're also trying to puncture those BS balloons?
I want to jump into a question that actually from a user, from one of our listeners here, and I thought it was actually interesting. I'm going to put it up here. What about leading AI itself? Is AI going to lead AI? Is there AI leadership that we should be studying? How AI leads other agents, agent leaders, right?
Well, there's definitely a hierarchy. There's definitely a hierarchy. There will be super AI managing other AIs. I mean, we have that in play now, but I'll let you know. Yeah.
So I've thought about this is going to sound way more egotistical than I mean it to, but it is more a reflection of perceived limitations on my own part. So I've thought about creating an AI Sue, and what I would do with it, if it took all the things that I've
I would download AI Sue, by the way. I would have it on my phone.
Settle down. And all the conclusions that I've reached, and then I would ingest more material, because with all the things going on in my life, there's more that I want to ingest than I can in the way I have. But one of the reasons I'd ingest it is not just to know more. I'd be interested in when I need to change my opinion about something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. So I think this question about AI leaders, AI humans, how you start using them, not simplistically to get more, but beat yourself off against it. All the things we talk about, why every leader knows diversity is good, why every leader knows inclusion is good. You could actually set it up where you're challenging your own beliefs and be able to not just ingest more, but process more and turn it around into a better version of what you already had.
Absolutely.
If I can build on what you're saying, I mean, because you have done briefings to senior leaders, including very, very high level, and sometimes they get stuck in a confirmation bias, or they had a bad day, and so they're angry in their angry state of mood. Think about if you had that AI version of yourself and you could compare it to your current state and it says, do you know you're currently pissed off? You're not in a good place to make this decision right now. Come back in an hour because any decision you make right now will probably be prone to confirmation bias. Or you're sad, you're more prone to sunk cost bias or things like that. I mean, understanding the emotional state of the human could be achieved by the AI holding a reflection up to yourself.
Yeah,
Well,
I definitely
Las
want
Vegas, it could improve my betting wins. No.
I definitely want to ground my language models with AI Sue. So if you want to replace Claude as one of my favorite on my
It'll be
phone,
Sue. It'll be Sue.
But I want Barry to chime in because Barry will be able to ground it with what the technology can.
and
Yeah, exactly. Thank God.
Barry's been myth busting.
Yes,
David,
yes.
you mentioned like understanding, enhancing your BS detector. Barry has been warning and educating and inspiring folks to better understand the myths that exist around AI. Could you share with us some of the more common myths that we need to?
Oh boy! Don't hold back there.
There's a few things. Right? I suppose firstly, one of the things that people don't really understand about most AI systems is that they don't have a common sense understanding of the world. They don't understand the way the world works in the way that you and I do. So Sue can create AI Sue, but AI Sue won't have Sue's intuitions, and it won't have the ability to really understand what's going on in a particular setting. Whereas real Sue does have that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this notion that we've built systems that are achieving, human level intelligence. The little thing that's in your head, your brain consumes about 20 watts of power.
Yeah.
If you want to, if you think about the amount of energy that your brain consumes from the time you're born until the time you die, if you never slept and you're working at full tilt for your entire life, you'd use about 150,000 kilowatt hours of power. That's about 1 million times less than what ChatGPT needs to be trained, for example. So, human beings, are really, really powerful, and we still haven't developed a technology that competes with that. So I think people need to, the technology is fantastic, absolutely. I've given my entire life to it. But I think we need to really understand the limitations, as Sue was talking about earlier, the risks and the limitations, before we get carried away. Because what's really important as leaders, coming back to the sort of overall topic, is that we can give people a realistic expectation of what they can get from the tools that they're going to be using. And if we give people a sense that, you can do almost anything with this tool, it is a false expectation and it's a false ask of the person. And I think we need to be careful of that. At the same time, we want to, give them wings and get them thinking, from as innovatively and creatively as possible. But we need to do that at the same time with a little bit of, holding the reins just back a little bit, just so that we can point them in the realistic direction.
So Barry, I'm going to give you an alley-oop and then maybe you can go over to Sue.
Alley-oop.
I'm bringing back the basketball metaphors. So here's the alley-oop, Barry. There are newer ways of doing AI because AI is not monolithic.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us about the ones that you're most optimistic that can deal with novelty. Because I would actually say generative AI is not good with novelty because I think that's core to what Sue's talking about in terms of what she does. So over to you, Barry, and then to Sue.
Yeah, well, there's lots of, there's lots of, approaches to reasoning about uncertainty. If you look at, just to give a very concrete example, back in 2017, 2018, people at CMU, led by Thomas Santom and others, they built these amazing Texas Hold'em agents. Mm-hmm. They were really human level, and they're based on optimization and machine learning integrations. And they could really reason about the uncertainty in the game when somebody was bluffing, when the machine itself should bluff, which is really interesting. And I think technologies like that are phenomenal. I think when dealing with real world uncertainty, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. There's an entire field called statistics, which has served us very, very well for many, many years. Let's not forget it. So we know how to deal with uncertainty. And this is something that we need to be very careful of when people look at AI systems, about what model of the world do they have and what can they do. And there are certainly some techniques, large language models and so on are not going to be creative. So I think if you're working in a space where creativity is important and you're working in a space where accuracy is important, you're Nobody wants their brain surgeon to be ChatGPT, for example. I know that opening up. But
Yes, it doesn't do much for me. Yeah.
There's it's a horses for courses type of deal.
But there are other tools in the toolkit, and I think what
Absolutely.
you're saying is leaders, and this gets to what Sue was saying about know the risk associated with different tools as well as the risk that you can buy down if you do place a bet with that tool.
Oh wait, well, actually, I have to, since we went down that route in the CMU side. Barry, Libertas or Pluribus? Which was your favorite agent for Texas Hold'em?
Well, I think Pluribus came second. Pluribus is the more advanced form of Liberatus. Yes. So Liberatus came first, I believe. Pluribus came afterwards. So from the same team, from Thomas Santom's team at Carnegie Mellon. Absolutely incredible work. And if you've not read about it, I'd encourage you to do so. Like at this point, it's an age in the past, right? It's 2017, 2018. But what that could achieve and what that can do is tremendous. Absolutely.
It's amazing stuff. Hey, we're going to wrap up on the AI and leadership piece. I want to get you guys to some final words. It's one quick answer. Are we in an AI bubble or not? David?
We are in the generative AI bubble. However, there are other AI techniques that are not getting any of the oxygen. So I hope once the bubble comes back to level set that we'll actually see other forms of AI take the pace.
All right, Sue.
Yeah, we're absolutely in the AI bubble. There are just some funny things going on in terms of self-licking ice cream cones going on that are making people think that we're further along than we are. But I'm with David. Sometimes you have to get that in order to get what's next. I'm really excited about the agentic stuff. We've been talking a lot about kind of the creative stuff, but those things that can make me do more of what I want to do in a predictive risk management way. But I think we're in a bubble. But that doesn't mean good things won't happen.
Last word,
at the risk of total agreement breaking out in the room, I believe, absolute generative AI bubble for sure. Not a broad AI bubble. David's absolutely right. There's other techniques that we need to get out there. My big concern is if companies are investing basically half of the GDP of the UK in hardware and there's no revenue, that's going to be quite a loud pop. And so we need to think very, very carefully about what's going to happen if it is a bubble, and what can we do to soft land it.
It's more fun than investing in the NHS.
So Ray, what you need to do next time is you need to ask how soon will the bubble pop, because we need to start surveying, and maybe we can get Barry to write an AI model so we know exactly when to short the market.
Really?
And as Barry's talking, I'm thinking, oh my God, what's the surface tension of the bubble?
Exactly.
And as much as again, I just came back from San Francisco, Phoenix, and Atlanta. 1,000 Waymos in San Francisco, 600, 700 in Phoenix, and about 500 in Atlanta. And there's 10 million ride-sharing men and women that make a living in the U.S. and Canada. And I think about 5 years from now, 2030, you're a truck driver, you're a ride-sharing professional. What does that landscape look like? And by the way, 0 fatalities with Waymo in 9 years of operation. So it's safer, it's cheaper. A Cybercab from Tesla is $36,000. A Waymo retrofitted Jaguar is $230,000. So the cost is going significantly down. You got the Zoox from Amazon. You've got the Moya from Volkswagen. And it's just a number of parties are going to. Things happen gradually and then suddenly.
The question I have is, remember when the original .com bubble burst, Google wasn't even on the map. And so I want to figure out who's the Google that is currently out there in somebody's garage that when the bubble burst that we
and I'll tell you, the leadership, the innovation velocity is driven by Alphabet, by NVIDIA and by Amazon, and it's not even the traditional car manufacturers. And I don't view Tesla as a car manufacturer. 15 years ago, when Musk was asked, "What do you build?" We're a software company. We're an AI company
in a car shape.
That's right. And today we're a robotics AI company. That's his answer today. And he was awarded potentially becoming the first trillionaire yesterday in terms of the voters who said, "Go build us the future." Yeah. And so again, hype, bubble, but it's moving fast.
Barry has something to say. Poor Barry, he's not going to get a chance to say it.
Well, I was just going to say one.
We got to wrap. Go. 30 seconds. Let's go.
That's exactly, Vala. why we need to distinguish between the generative AI side of AI thing from the rest of it. Right? There's some massive value being produced, as you say.
Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
right, P = 4 times surface tension over radius. If you really want to know what's the bubble, we got to go. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, David. Thank you, Barry. And it's time to go. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Vala.
Thank you so much. We could have talked for
We
hours.
have.
Hours. We have. Yeah. No, I know. I know people have things to do on Fridays.
Thank you. Stick around. We'll be in the green room. So go ahead.
That was the fastest hour of my week, and I loved it. Okay, next week, as you know, if it's Fridays Disrupt, we have Ed Addison, professor of the practice at North Carolina State. He's the A150 executive, recognized by Constellation Group. Dr. Scott Hutchison, PhD, author of Biohacking Leadership, leveraging the biology of behavior to maximize your impact. So we'll continue talking about the importance of leadership in this incredible era of AI and other emerging tech. And Ruchita Malhotra, author of Uncompete, rejecting competition to unlock success. I love that. I'm interested in that. So if it's Friday, buckle down, bring popcorn, and enjoy yet another episode of Disrupt TV. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.